pause causing feedback.
I wish I was in the land of cotton. Old times are not forgotten. Look away, look away, look away, Dixieland. In Dixieland where I was born in early on one frosty morning. Look away, look away, look away, Dixieland. And I wish I was in Dixie. Hooray, hooray, in Dixieland. I took my stand to live and die in Dixie. Away, away, away down south in Dixie. Away, away, away down south in Dixie. Oh, Mrs. Mary will the weaver, William was the gay deceiver. Look away, look away, look away, Dixieland. But when he put his arm around her, he smiled as fierce as a horse he found her. Look away, look away, look away, Dixieland. And I wish I was in Dixie. Hooray, hooray, in Dixieland. I took my stand to live and die in Dixie. Away, away, away down south in Dixie. Away, away, away down south in Dixie.
His face was sharp as wood to cleaver, but that did not seem to grieve her. Look away, look away, look away, Dixieland. Oh, Mrs. Jack with the foolish heart as died for a man that broke her heart. Look away, look away, look away, Dixieland.
And I wish I was in Dixie, hooray, hooray. In Dixieland I took my stand to live and die in Dixie. Away, away, away down south in Dixie. Away, away, away down south in Dixie. And I wish I was in Dixie, hooray, hooray. In Dixieland I took my stand to live and die in Dixie. Away, away, away down south in Dixie. Away, away, away down south in Dixie.
Yes, it is a beautiful day in the neighborhood. Doubtless warm and spring-like in Arizona, quite cold and even snowy here in Michigan. But a neighborhood is not a place, it's a time, a place and time where we gather to be a neighborhood. I am Fred Wooden, and I'm in Michigan, all bundled up. And I am your interim minister. And it is my honor every week, well, most every week, to invite you to come into this time we call worship. An old gathering words that I've used for years says, 3 unseen guests attend every worship service: faith, hope, and love. Let every heart prepare them place. What makes it worship are the presence of faith, hope, and love. We must make room for them, perhaps in the chair next to you, in the room at least, certainly in your heart. Making room is what makes this more than a meeting. Making room in your heart for your neighbor. To help us open our minds and our hearts and our souls. To help us begin this hour of worship, Linda Horton will now gather us with music and prelude.
Now's the time, if you're at home and you wish to light your own chalice, to do so. Katie's going to light ours, and let's all of us say together the words by which we light our chalice. We kindle this flame, symbol of our faith, for the light of truth, the warmth of community, and the fire of love, which calls us to work for justice.
Good morning. Good morning. So nice to be with you this morning. I'm Katie Seifert. I'm the Director of Music Ministries, and we are going to sing together this morning. But first, let's give a great big good morning to our friends on Zoom. We probably can't pull up Zoom this morning, but if you're on Zoom, know that we are thinking of you and that you are part of this community and vice versa. So let's give a good morning on the count of 3. 1, 2, 3. Good morning. And let's stand to sing Enter, Rejoice, and Come In, a beloved hymn by Luis Rospini, arranged by Betty A. Wilder.
Enter, rejoice, and come in. Rejoice and come in. Today will be a joyful day. Enter, rejoice, and come in. Open your ears to the song. Open your ears to the song. Today will be a joyful day. Enter, rejoice, and come in. Open your hearts, everyone. Open your hearts, everyone. Today will be a joyful day. Enter, rejoice, and come in. Don't be afraid of some change. Don't be afraid of some change. Today will be a joyful day. Enter, rejoice, and come in. Enter, rejoice, and come in. Enter, rejoice, and come in. Today will be a joyful day. Enter, rejoice, and come in.
Good morning, everyone. I am Marcy Bodwin, your Director of Faith Formation. If you have any children at home, now is the time to call them in front of your device so they can hopefully see, I don't know what's going on, but hopefully they'll be able to see our story for today. Today, in honor of International Transgender Awareness Day, I want to share with you a couple of my favorite books. And the first one is I Am Jazz, written by Jessica Herthel, together with Jazz Jennings. So we start with, for as long as I can remember, my favorite color has been pink. My second favorite is silver, and my third favorite color is green. Here are some of my other favorite things: dancing, singing, backflips, drawing, soccer, swimming, makeup, and pretending I'm a pop star. Most of all, I love mermaids. Sometimes I even wear a mermaid tail in the pool. There we go. My best friends are Samantha and Casey. We always have fun together. We like high heels and princess gowns and cartwheels and trampolines. But I'm not exactly like Samantha and Casey. I have a girl brain in a boy body. This is called transgender, and I was born that way. When I was very little, my mom would say, "You're such a good boy." And I would say, "No, Mama, good girl." At first, my family was confused. They always thought of me as a boy. As I got a little older, I hardly ever played with trucks or tools or superheroes, only princesses and mermaid costumes. My brothers told me this was girl stuff, and I kept right on playing. My sister says I was always talking to her about my girl thoughts and my girl dreams, and how one day I would be a beautiful lady. She would giggle and say, "You're a funny kid." Sometimes my parents let me wear my sister's dresses around the house, but whenever we went out, I had to put on my boy clothes again, and this made me mad. Still, I never gave up trying to convince them. Pretending I was a boy felt like telling a lie. Then one amazing day, everything changed. Mom and Dad took me to meet a new doctor who asked me lots and lots of questions. Afterward, the doctor spoke to my parents, and I heard the word transgender for the first time. That night at bedtime, my parents both hugged me and said, "We understand now. Be who you are. We love you no matter what." This made me smile and smile and smile. Mom and Dad told me I could start wearing girl clothes to school and growing my hair long. They even let me change my name to Jazz. Being Jazz felt much more like being me. Mom said that being Jazz would make me feel different from the other kids at school, but that being different is okay. What's important, she said, is that I'm happy with who I am. Being Jazz caused some other people to be confused too, like the teachers at school. At the beginning of the year, they wanted me to use the boys' bathroom and play on the boys' team in gym class, but that didn't feel normal to me at all. I was so happy when the teachers changed their minds. I cannot imagine not playing on the same team as Casey and Samantha. Even today, there are kids who tease me or call me by a boy name or ignore me altogether. This makes me feel crummy. Then I remember that the kids who get to know me usually want to be my friend. They say I'm one of the nicest girls in school. I don't mind being different. Different is special. I think of what matters most in a person is on the inside. And inside, I am happy. I am having fun. I am proud. I am Jazz. Here's an update for you. This is a picture of Jazz with her family in May of 2021. But I also want to share with you another book, this one that's on the screen, Becoming Nicole. This was a fabulous read for any adults or older youth who have questions, they want to understand that there's a chapter in here that says the transgender brain, and it talks about the physiology of the brain and how this works. It is informational and a fantastic story about a young transgender woman named Nicole Maines, and I'd like you to meet Nicole Maines as of now. I was sitting at home watching Supergirl, a series that I've been watching, and they introduced a new character, a transgender superhero. She has powers in dreams, so she's called Dreamer. And I thought to myself, we would no more sit by and allow someone to pretend to be another race, deaf, to be neuroatypical. I wonder about this person. Now, I had read Nicole Maines' story in 2015, and here I was in 2020 watching Supergirl, and I pulled it up on the internet. This is Nicole Maines. This is her living her true life, and I find that just fantastic. Any children and adults who are going to class with us can meet us out on the back patio. We're going to go through the foyer out the big glass doors because that door is just too darn noisy, so we're going to start going that way. I'll meet you in the back.
Good morning. I'm Melanie Clunan-Schulte, your worship associate. Those of you here in the sanctuary, welcome. Those of you on Zoom, welcome. Whatever your background, whatever challenges you are working through this morning, we bid you welcome. We always love to greet new guests to our congregation, so if you are with us for the first or second time on Zoom, feel free to introduce yourself in the chat feature. In the sanctuary, we would love it if you would have the courage to stand up and let us acknowledge you if you are a visitor today. Anybody, any guests with us? Welcome. There will be a welcome circle after our service in the back corner, and you can get to know us a little bit better. If you are in need of pastoral care, our lay team is ready to listen and provide resources. Online, Dan Schulte will post how to contact him, and in the sanctuary, Carl Anderson will be up front after the service. They can also be reached during the week by emailing pastoralcare@vuu.org. I'm thinking today on this Oscar Sunday about the fact that only one Best Picture nominee in the history of the Academy Awards has been directed by a Black woman. That was 2014's Selma, which concluded with the march from Selma to Montgomery that inspired Reverend Wooden's pilgrimage, which he has been recounting in his sermon series these last few weeks. Well, he calls it a sermon series. I call it poetry. An epic poem like the Odyssey, a love poem to a journey and to some of the people encountered on that journey, and I feel that we've been so blessed that he is sharing it with us. And I'm also thinking today on this last Sunday of Women's History Month about the first female U.S. Secretary of State, Madeleine Albright, who died this week amidst a rise in global authoritarianism after a life and career devoted to opposing totalitarian regimes. And I'm thinking of the first Black female nominated to the Supreme Court. When I saw coverage of her in her blue jacket this week, it brought tears to my eyes. And as a white woman who's seen other white women ascend to this court, I wondered why this nomination meant so much to me. I think it's because I remember being a college student watching another judicial confirmation hearing. I wasn't particularly interested in politics or civics at the time. I just had a lull between classes when the hearings were on television. And I remember watching a different Black woman in a blue jacket go before the Senate Judiciary Committee and be diminished. I don't think I could have articulated at the time why I was so bothered by Anita Hill's questioning by the committee, but I knew I was bothered. Today, I might articulate what Reverend Fred wrote in his newsletter column this week about the intersectionality of racism and sexism. When one group in our society is diminished, I think we are all diminished. The promise of a level playing field being exposed as a falsehood. And so to see all these years later, another Black woman being elevated made me emotional. And of course, it wasn't all elevation. There were attempts to diminish, but they were tacky and petty and will likely be forgotten by history, while the elevation will be remembered. I think that's why Senator Cory Booker said they couldn't steal his joy. There have been a lot of things lately, whether politics, climate, health concerns, or world affairs that might be conspiring to steal our joy. But I think we can all take a page from Senator Booker's script and refuse to let them. We can celebrate the moments of real positive change and the ways in which those elevate us all.
I had to turn on my video and my audios because I don't want to interrupt Katie or Melanie. And thank you, Melanie. Rich stuff every week. Our worship associate gives something that I need as the preacher. And that's a blessing all by itself. I'm on Zoom today, so I'm kind of worshiping with all these characters I see on my iPad and saying hello to the new people. And I'm really glad you checked in. And that's the point, is that we don't always see the community because we're in a room or by ourselves, but they're always there. You may not in the room there in the sanctuary have seen a few of the folks who are visiting with us today. Let me look at some of their names, share some of their names with you out there. Marion and Beatrice and who else? And Jen and Chelsea. And it's just fabulous that even in these more separate times, we still find a way to find each other. What does this have to do with the offering? The offering is about found money. You ever walk down the street and find a dollar bill, maybe a $5 bill? I found $100 once, no kidding. And I left a sign on the lamppost. It was in New York City. Said, if actually I didn't. Now that I think about it, I waited for someone to ask, and it never came. And then I took the money and I gave it to my church because it was not my money. Even when I waited and waited for someone to ask for it, I knew it wasn't mine. So I want to think about the found money you have, whether it's in the bottom of a handbag or in the pocket in a suit that's hanging in the closet, or you look under something in a drawer and there's a $5, whatever it is. That was money you weren't thinking about. You were living without it. But an institution like this can put that money to work in ways that maybe you cannot. So imagine that moment when you looked down and saw money on the ground, or you got a little extra something, a rebate or a discount. And I want you to think of that as your opportunity to find something of value in that money and put it forward towards something that will do even more good than you might have imagined. So think about that. And now I want you to turn that into an action. There's a slide that'll help you out that'll say you can do this virtually by going to our website, by texting, by sending a check, by making a phone call. I've said, if you want to have a conversation with me, I'll be glad to come out and tell you. Although I'm in Michigan right now, I'll be back this week. And as of Thursday, I'll have a car available. So whatever you need to help you take your found money and put it in a good place, we're ready to do that. So that's the offering for the moment. And I'll come back with a little prayerful thought after Katie has led us through a time of centering.
Now is our time of centering. In honor of Women Histories Month, the last Sunday in March, I've chosen a song by Libby Roderick. Libby Roderick is an internationally acclaimed singer-songwriter, poet, activist, teacher, and lifelong Alaskan. The surprising power and depth of her music and the humor of her performances have attracted large and enthusiastic audiences all over the world. There's one song in particular that is much loved here at VUU. And this song we will sing in honor of International Transgender Day of Visibility, which will be March 31st. So please stand and let's sing How Could Anyone, using the words from Libby Roderick to elevate those that have been diminished. How could anyone ever tell you you were anything less than beautiful? How could anyone ever tell you you were less than whole? How could anyone fail to notice that your loving is a miracle? How deeply you're connected to my soul. How could anyone ever tell you you were anything less than beautiful? How could anyone ever tell you you were less than whole? How could anyone fail to notice that your loving is a miracle? How deeply you're connected to my soul.
This is a time when a prayerful thought is welcome in our congregation. We come from so many different places spiritually that prayer in the formal sense doesn't fit, or doesn't fit everyone. And so I offer thoughts and you turn them into prayers. You turn them into what you need to hear and think and feel in order to be more deeply connected to who you are and who cares about you. As I come to every Sunday, I never write these out. I want them to be responses to what I've heard. And we've heard a great deal about transgender visibility. And I'm also noticing, because I'm on Zoom, that I can see all you Zoom people, your little boxes down here in my other screen. And I can be waving at Janet Cantley or Tom Briggs or Ken St. John, or oh my goodness, there's Barry Skolnick. And I just met Beatriz Arias, who is new to us this week, and other faces that I know and names that I know and people I don't know. Angela and Ella, or as right as rain. My dear friend Evie Bowers is almost always here. And I'm thinking visibility is needed by all of us. We all need to be seen. And in some respect, that's an ableist word. I don't want to be picky, but to be present. I want to tell you, I am perceiving your presence. Even Dan Schulte, who's sitting in his car waiting for someone to ask for some kind of pastoral care, which he can do even while he's driving. He is that good. I want to talk about the people I can see, including a new person. Is that Marianne Costello, who just said hello for the first time? And what a great face she has. And here's the other thing I need you to do. If you're not putting your face on your Zoom, I can't see you. It doesn't have to be live. Pick a picture, even a funny one, so that when we see you, we see something of you. Now, Roz Hawkins is always here, and I love being able to wave at her. Hey, Roz. Because she sees people better than anyone I know. She's a teacher for me of how to be present to others. So I look at Carter and Bev, and I look at, I'm looking over there at, Melanie Kasich, and she's pedaling away like crazy. And when I mention your name, you smile, and I feel like prayers are happening right now. And that's exactly what's happening. Every time we bring someone to mind and we tell them, I see you over there. we pull the spirit out of them a little bit so it shines. So in the end, you don't have to pray to God to be seen. You should see others, and in so doing, you will see God, because every face is the image and likeness, as it says, right? So notice people, the people you know and the people you don't, whether it's Gary Lenchowski, which is a great name. I hope I said it right, Jerry. He's got a great smile, by the way. Or perhaps it's Leon Weber, who's got the coolest beard in 2 counties. All of you are letters from God, and I'm going to use that phrase letter, letters from God, along with Johnny May and Lorraine Rice. All of you are letters from God that I'm grateful to receive. And when you see others, you receive their letters. And with those thoughts in mind, now is your time to pray and to let the music help you notice all the people, because everyone deserves to be seen. Katie, do we have more music?
We do, and I'm pleased to introduce to you Judy Conrad. She has been a member here for 4 years. She's a retired professional flutist. And for many years, she's the artistic director of Rosie's House Academy of Music, where low-income children received free music lessons. So we have a treat this morning. Thank you so much for sharing your music. The song she's about to play was so moving this morning. We were having lots of technical difficulties, and when she started playing, it just reminded me the power of this song, Amazing Grace.
Wow. We have so many gifts that we enjoy. It would take forever to appreciate them fully. So, as Melanie pointed out, I am recounting my personal and solo walk from Selma to Montgomery that I took in the fall of 2019. I can't fit everything in, but I try to get every day something worth sharing with you. So I'm beginning the 3rd day, noticing that if the previous day was biblical and the amount of rain I had to walk through, and it was considerable, today was the end of the flood. The clear skies and the cool air had come in, and I had the pleasure of contemplating a long, bright, crisp, clear 20-mile hike. Selma, the city of such brutal drama, was already well behind me. Montgomery, with its moral triumph, is still a few days ahead. Have you noticed that the history books never tell you what happened along the way? Well, that's because pretty much nothing happened along the way. Nothing momentous took place as they marched along the highway. Turns out even momentous occasions are mostly not momentous. If I did not focus on the momentous quality of it as I walked along, I guess they didn't either. And at least I had the benefit of better shoes. And yet, all through the day, I received letters from God, a phrase coined by Walt Whitman. Little messages that are always there if you pay attention and see them. My day began early. A woman of a certain age, as we now say, and took me in her car back to where I stopped the day before. She unfolded her life as we went along, the way you unfold a linen handkerchief, one fold at a time, not to hide it, but just to be sure I got it in the right order. She told me about her harsh father, who had been wounded in the war more in soul than in body, and how her mother tried to compensate for that by being the person who cared for her after her father was so harsh. She married young and did what women of that era did, which was she raised a family, and then she went on to teach kindergarten, and then she got involved in civic affairs because she was involved in the schools. And now she was looking back on a life of marvels that befell her along the way. As we sit in the parking lot of the Cutting Edge Ministries of Benton, Alabama. Cutting Edge Ministries is ironically shuttered and locked now. She shows me watercolors she's been painting. These are quite good, I say. How long have you been painting them? About 4 weeks, she says. Well, good heavens is all I can muster. She really has a gift. But I have to be on with myself and my work. With a handshake and a thank you, I claim my knapsack and my walking stick, this knapsack right here, which has been to 5 continents, this walking stick right here, got out of the car, and I waved goodbye as she left. The air is chilly, below 40 degrees, which is why I have on this fleece and this mock turtle, because I know it's going to be chilly for a while. My official Selma to Montgomery hat that I bought at the interpretive center on my first day, thanks to Norm, is on my head. My glasses have already turned gray in the sun. The moment that I start every morning is actually the best moment of my day, because that's the day when the body is fresh, everything lies ahead. This is what I remember from when I was very young, and every day was a promise just waiting to be kept. Then, as so often happens, I realize that this is yet another reason I do this, to have these moments again. When we wake up now as adults, we have a checklist waiting for us. But when we're young, remember when you were young, when you were a child, and you woke up to the thrill of the possible. You had no idea what was going to happen, but it was going to be exciting. And there was an actual body sensation of being alive. That's hard to get in adulthood. It almost drains away with obligations. But right now, alone, when the sun is still close to the morning horizon, when the land undulates away in shades and textures of green, sliced by the ribbons of asphalt until it slips behind a curve in the trees, when the air is crisp and my nose and lungs sting just a little bit, I can feel that feeling again. And it is so good to feel alive that way. I walk against the traffic, of course. Beneath me, anthills, fire anthills, I should point out, bump up every few feet. They make my steps harder to plan and force me to look down rather than ahead. Of course, the oncoming traffic is itself something to mind. There is no paved shoulder, and before long, I'm feeling the toil of avoiding the anthills and going through the rough grass. Surely there's a better way to walk along the road. And then insight strikes. I'm on a divided highway. Why not walk on the other side of the oncoming traffic? There is always less traffic in that lane to begin with. The median is a little flatter. Eureka, which is Greek for I've discovered it. And that's what I do. More than once in my previous pilgrim walks, it took me more than a day to figure out how to walk, but I always do. In no particular order, I encounter mushrooms that could seat a half a dozen gnomes, circling hawks, the inevitable roadkill that was once an armadillo and a lizard and a possum, now flattened so they look like those peat people found in bogs up in Ireland or Scotland. Cattle in meadows see me now and then and give me the stink eye as I go by. There are muddy streams under the bridges I cross. Spanish moss hangs from the trees. The bug that bit my leg and the fly that bashed me stupidly tell me I am certainly not the only one on the road. Life was all around me, going fast and slow, old and new, alive and dead. None of it, though, was seen or noticed by the other humans zooming along in their cars and trucks. My cap flew off as a truck whooshed past, and the debris of cars and trucks dotted the median. Beer cans, broken bottles, women's shoes, telephones, a toilet seat, lots of tire tread, bits of plastic bumper. One could almost reconstruct lives from the flotsam left along the highway. Two worlds were side by side, nature and civilization. This distinction and dissonance has appeared every day, from the heron in the drainage ditch on my first day to the cotton bolls that fly off the immense coiled cylinders that are carried by trucks as they roar past. Cotton bolls, still. Cotton, King Cotton. We all learned about King Cotton when we were young. I am literally in the land of cotton, as the song says, the crop that enslaved Southern blacks and in its own way enslaved Southern whites. I was in the heart of the land of cotton in what is called the Black Belt, a strip of dark, fertile land ideal for cotton growing that runs from the Virginia border across the middle of the Carolinas, Georgia, Alabama, Mississippi, Louisiana, even into East Texas. But black has more than one meaning, noted long ago by Booker T. Washington, who wrote in his autobiography. I have often been asked to define the term Black Belt. So far as I can learn, the term was first used to designate a part of the country which was distinguished by the color of the soil. The part of the country possessing this thick, dark, naturally rich soil was, of course, the part of the South where the slaves were most profitable, and consequently, they were taken there in largest numbers. Later, and especially since the war, the term seems to be used wholly in a political sense. That is, to designate the counties where the black people outnumber the white. I am in Lowndes County, which is the one between Dallas County, where Selma is, and Montgomery County, where Montgomery is. A county which I told you last week was 96% black, in which not a single black was registered to vote, and of which 96% of the land was in the hands of the other. One was in the hands of the 4% who were white. Here, just like every other county in the Black Belt, was where slavery reached its demonic apotheosis, where the black land needed black bodies to grow cotton in such abundance that before the Civil War, America grew 2/3 of the world's cotton. In 1858, James Henry Hammond, senator from South Carolina and owner, I wrap in quotes, of 300 enslaved people, orated in Congress and said, "No power on earth dares to make war upon it. Cotton is king." That's where we got the phrase. What he did not know or realized was that the privileged whites were subjects of that king every bit as much as the enslaved blacks. They were as enthralled by it, even as they wrung their bread from the sweat of other men's faces, as Lincoln so famously put it. Cotton was so strong that it drove everything in the South, and slavery was an essential part of that Southern life. So when people say they're trying to preserve the Southern way of life, whether they mean it or not, this is what they mean. King cotton reached well beyond the South, though. Where did that cotton go? Most of it, for a time, went to mechanized mills up north that produced cotton cloth at low prices. Where exactly? Well, Lowell, Massachusetts, Manchester, New Hampshire, places famous for not having slavery. But that's where the rivers were that could turn the wheels, that could drive the belts, that would drive the looms, where the young women were hired to come and tend the looms as they drove along. I visited the Lowell mills years ago. I had to wear earplugs in the room. It was so loud, but the women who were there in 1830 weren't issued earplugs. Guess who else was a casualty of the South, of cotton, of slavery? In fact, there were more cotton mills in Lowell, Massachusetts than in the entire of the later Confederacy. And that was not the only place. Nor did the reach of King Cotton end in Lowell, Massachusetts, or Manchester, New Hampshire. From the beginning of the Republic, enslaved people, being property, were used as collateral for loans. How many fortunes were made that way? Well, I'm not sure if that exactly happened in this particular case, but a few years back, I saw a play called the Lehman Brothers Trilogy, the story of Lehman Brothers investment banking. How did it start? With a German Jew who settled in Montgomery, Alabama, and traded cotton and banked cotton and took out loans on cotton to become an investment bank in the end. So that New York bank, its fortune was made in slavery, if not directly, certainly indirectly. Be it cotton itself or the slaves who picked it, millions, perhaps billions were made in the Black Belt, money that created banks, that created America. The human meaning of the Black Belt was never far away as I walked. It literally got in my hair as they fell off the truck. It got stuck in the laces of my shoes as I walked along. But it was obvious now, and I hope it's obvious to you now, that it was everywhere in America, literally everywhere. In fact, to this day, if you pull out your wallet and get out a dollar bill, look at it, 75% of that is cotton. Except for a marker showing where the second night's campsite was, I saw no evidence of the march as I went up and down the hills. Nothing more than a sign remains of the campsite. There are many little churches on the road. They're mostly little Black churches. One is Hopewell Missionary Baptist Church, and it appeals to me because there's a portico and some steps so I can get out of the sun briefly. I eat a snack and drink some water while I text my ride, who happens to be my clergy colleague, to let her know how far I am from the meeting point. On the move, I pass campsite 3, where the marchers stopped again, marked on the far side of the road this time. I cross into Montgomery County. The traffic is starting to pick up. There's no edge to the road now, there's only grass. Back to keeping an eye on those ant hills because I've tripped over more than one today. They remind me of the termite mounds I saw in Zimbabwe earlier that year. They grow up around dead trees, enclosing them. They use them as a skeleton for building. To see the physical embrace of creation and destruction, one feeding on the other, is further reminder of how complicated life is and how small we humans are in the larger picture. Within a mile of my destination, I've reached the point where my back hurts. It's been 20 miles. The knapsack feels heavy. My hips are making their fatigue known, even with my walking stick. I see Casey's General Store. That's my pickup point. I get there before my ride and buy a soft drink and pay the cashier, who was on the phone speaking Urdu or Hindi. And then I realized, damn it, I made a mistake. I meant to stop and visit the marker where Viola Liuzzo was killed. Viola Liuzzo was a woman from Detroit, my state of Michigan, member of the First Unitarian Church of Detroit, who came down after the march to help the people who had flown in and flown to get to and from airports to Selma and Montgomery. It was on March 25th, after the march had ended. She was driving down Route 80 with someone in the car, a black man. A car full of Klansmen pulled alongside. A gun pointed out the window. It fired. She died, and the man riding with her was grievously injured. Near that spot is a monument. I didn't see it when I went by, and I dare say some of you didn't even know that it was there or that she was there. When my clergy comrade arrives, she helps me go back and see it, go to that spot. It turns out she's been there before, and it is hard to see, even as you walk along. It looks like a gravestone, but it's not. And it's enclosed in a cast iron fence because it has been vandalized repeatedly over the years, shot at, as though somehow you can kill someone again and again and again, desecrating graves and monuments of those who are Black and the white people who helped them. It's pretty much a white sport in the Old South. Emmett Till has had his grave mauled many times. We spend a minute or two at the enclosure. I take a picture. It's important to me to pay my respects here, even though she is not buried here, because she is just as much a victim as James Reeb, but overlooked and often forgotten. Being autumn, I pass many fields where the cotton has been picked. I saw their husks from the road, spindly black sticks filling up acre after acre, thinking back to the march, the line of people walking along the narrow two-lane highways, which is an icon in itself. Their picture is here on the front of my cap. They walked across the land their ancestors picked as enslaved people. The ancestors are gone. Slavery, at least in part, is gone. Viola Liuzzo is gone. But the cotton fields remain. Were some of those fields the ones their ancestors worked? Absolutely. And if great machines harvest that crop today, they were bought through loans from banks that got their start from loans based on Black bodies. If you want to know why those Klansmen killed Viola Liuzzo, look at the land. If you want to know why people still fly the Confederate flag to preserve the Southern way of life, look at the land. If you want to know why people resist the claim to legitimacy of Judge Brown Jackson, look at the land. Because all of them are still willing subjects of King Cotton, even a century after he was dethroned. They serve a king, they kill for their king. They killed our king, the one named Martin, the one who walked to Montgomery, past the fields, worked by those who were enslaved and built America. With those images in mind, I'll ask Katie to gather our hearts in song.
Let's stand and singing our closing hymn. Guide my feet while I run this race. 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 For I don't want to run this race in vain, race in vain. Hold my hand while I run this race. Hold my hand while I run this race. Hold my hand while I run this race. For I don't want to run this race in vain, race in vain. Stand by me. Stand stand by me while I run this race. Stand by me while I run this race. Stand by me while I run this race. For I don't want to run this race in vain, race in vain. Search my heart while I run this race. Search my heart while I run this race. Search my heart while I run this race. For I don't want to run this race in vain, race in vain.
From a volume of poetry by Langston Hughes. This is written in 1942. Negroes, sweet and docile, meek, humble, and kind, beware the day they change their minds. Wind in the cotton fields, gentle breeze, beware the hour it uproots trees. That's not a threat, nor is it a promise, but it is a prophecy. And that prophecy is that what we plant, we harvest, good or evil. And I hope that we, as people, will be mindful that we can sow the seeds of justice or oppression, of love or of hate, of hope or despair. Let us plant in fields of hope, love, and justice, so that that harvest will be that which our children and our children's children will have the bounty to enjoy. Melanie, Dr. Melanie, come in and extinguish the chalice, but not the flame in our heart.
Let's say together the words by which we extinguish our chalice. Though we extinguish the chalice, our connection to each other and this community remains. May its light guide us this week as we walk the path of justice, speak words of love, and fill our world with compassion until we meet again.